Good day, students. You're all welcome to today's class. I just want us to enter into fraction in detail today. We've done the introductory aspect of fraction, but today we are doing fractions in detail. Our specific objective is that at the end of the lesson, you should be able to. The first specific objective is to carry out mathematical operations involving fractions. What are the operations? Multiplication, division, subtraction, and addition. Then the second says that we should be able to convert fractions to percentage and also percentage to fraction. And the last specific objective is that we should be able to convert fraction to decimal and vice versa. Taking all these things into consideration, follow these things in detail and ensure that our specific objectives are obtained. So the first operation, if you remember our previous class, we talked about addition, subtraction of fraction. So today we are looking at multiplication and division, which is the other aspect of the word operation. In multiplication, what do we do in multiplication? We say in multiplication of fractions, the numerator of one of the fraction will multiply the numerator of the other fraction, and the denominator of one of the fraction will multiply the denominator of the other fraction. So this illustration here explains it better. If you look at this first one, you find out that it is what? 2/3 times 4/7. So it is equal to what? 2 times 4, which is the numerator of the two fractions, all over 3 times 7, which is the denominator of the two fractions, is equal to what? 8 over, is equal to what? 8 over 21. 8 over 21 now is our final result. So when you carry out, anytime you see multiplication of fraction, ensure you multiply the numerator and the numerator of one fraction and the numerator of the other fraction, and the denominator of one fraction and the denominator of the other ones will now give you your final result. Multiplication is one of the simplest operation in a fraction. So the next one we are looking at is what? Division. What happens in division? The first thing I want you to notice is that in division, the operation before any number is the number sign. So now if you look at this one, that means that the division sign you are seeing belongs to 7/4. So since we don't like carry out the division operation directly, what we ought to do, we ought to change the division sign into multiplication. And anytime you are changing the division sign into multiplication, the number that is carrying that sign, it will what? Invert. You invert it by making the denominator to become the numerator and the numerator to become the denominator. And when you convert the fraction into multiplication, now you see you are still applying multiplication rule. So the next one we are looking at is the example above. You see the example here, you find out that it is made up of what? Mixed number and open bracket and multiplication and subtraction. But before you look at anything in this solution, the first thing you need to do as a mathematics student, you have to change all the mixed number into their various improper fractions. You ought to change all their mixed number into their various improper fraction. How do you change it to their improper fraction? You use the denominator to multiply the whole number and your result add it to the numerator all over the denominator. So if you look at these fractions, you find out that what? 2 whole number 1/4 is improper fraction is what? 9/4. And one whole number 2/3, the improper fraction is what? 5/3. Then you will see that what? The mixed number of one whole number 5/7 is the same thing as what? 12/7. So the next thing is that when you want to carry out this operation, you should remember our board mathematics. What is the board mathematics? We said board maths is what? Bracket, orders, division, multiplication, addition, and what? Subtraction. So the first operation we are looking at in this case, it is what? Bracket. How do you remove the bracket? The first thing you need to do, it is to clear the bracket by working on the numbers inside the bracket in such a way that when you have a single number there, you have cleared the bracket. So the first thing I need to do here, what did I do? I look for the LCM of 4 and 3, which are the denominators of the two fractions inside the bracket. So when I look at the LCM, I have what? 12. So when you have 12, the first thing you do, you use that the LCM to display the numerator of the individual fraction, and the numerator will now multiply the result after dividing the individual fraction by their denominator. So now let's look at this. We have 12 there. 12 divided by 4 will give you 3, and 12 divided by 3 will give you what? 4. That is why in the next operation you find out that what? 9 is multiplying 3, and minus 5 is multiplying what? 4. So when 9 multiplies 3, the next result it will have is what? 27. And when minus 5 multiplies 4, the next result you will have is minus what? 20. So 27 minus 20 will give you what? 7/12. You see the operation? You have gotten a single number representing the bracket. So in this case, if you look at the next step, I repeated the question. I put the next step, which is the what? The mixed fraction of the various improper fraction. Then the next step we are looking at, it is the multiplication of our result, which is 7/12 by what? 12/7. When you multiply them, you will now have what? 1. Then your answer is what? 1. So under this topic, these are the the exercise you are to solve in the course of this lesson. So solve this exercise and submit it in my Google Classroom. Those of you that don't have, those of you that are not in my Google Classroom, please try and communicate me so that I can remember and try to send the code to you so that you can join the Google Classroom. So our next topic we are looking at is the conversion of fraction to percentage. Anytime you hear the word percent, the first thing that comes across our mind, it is what? 100. So anytime you hear percentage, it is either they are multiplying by 100 or they are dividing by what? 100. So now looking at this one, we said what? In converting fraction to percentage, the fraction is multiplied by what? 100%. For instance, convert 3/4. For instance, convert 3/4 to percentage. In this case, this 3/4 is multiplied by what? 100%. How do you multiply it? You see it here, you see 3/4 times what? 100% all over 1. So if you use 4 to divide 4, you will have 1, which means that 3/1 is the same thing as 3. Then if you use 4 to divide 100, you will have what? 25. That means that 25/1 is what? 25%. Multiply 25 by 3, you will have what? 75%. So this step, we have endured to convert the fraction into what? Percentage. So the next step, it is what? What do you do in converting what? Percentage to fraction? You know, percentage, the things you often see is like 30%, 40%, 100%, 20/20%, but nobody consider the word numbers here. So now we are not considering the numbers in this case, which is the word 75%. So look at this example that said, e.g., convert 75% to what? Fraction. So now, in the course of converting 75% into fraction, what do we do here? We remove that percentage symbol and divide the number by what? 100. So when you divide the number by 100, the common factor that is in between 75 and 100 is what? 5. So 5 into 75 will give you 15, and 5 into 100 will give you what? 20. The next common factor again is what? 5, because if 5 divides 15, you will have what? 3, and if 5 divides 20, you have what? 4. So this is the what? The fraction of what? 25%. So now the next thing we are looking at is the what? Conversion of fraction to what? Decimal. In this case, whenever you are converting fraction to the word decimal, please be careful to use long division table to do the conversion. If not so, it will be very difficult for us to carry out division. A little error, you will fail everything. So when you want to carry out division using long division table, the next thing you look at, what are the acronyms used? The acronyms we have here, it is what? DMLSB. DMSB means D for division, M for multiplication, S for subtraction, B for what? Bring down the next. And in this case, these acronyms will be followed repeatedly until either the required decimal is reached or until the division is what? Complete. So let's look at this example. Example 1 said what? We should convert what? 122 all over 4 to decimal number. So now look at the steps here. You see the number I want to divide, which is 127, is inside the table, while 4, which is the number I'm using to divide, is outside the word table. So if you want to carry out division of long table, don't carry more than one figure at a time. So that is why we look at this number. We said what? 1 divided by 4 means it cannot. So I put down 0 at the top and I use that 0 to multiply 4. I say I have what? 0. So 1 minus 0 gives me 1. So what do you do next? You bring down what? 2. When you bring down 2, you divide 12 by 4. You will have what? 3. So using the 3 now to multiply, 4, you will have what? 12. So you subtract, you have 0, 0. So the next number now becomes what? 7. So therefore 7 divided by 4 will give us what? 1. Use that 1 to multiply 4. You will still have what? 4. When you subtract, you will have what? 3. After the subtraction, you have 3 there. So you find out that after 7, the last digit we have there is what? Decimal. So for us to be what? Successful, move the decimal to the word numerator and bring down 0. So you bring down 0, it becomes 30. So 4 into 30 will give him what? 7. Then 7 times what? 4 will give us what? 28. 28 minus 10 will give us what? 2. Then bring down the next what? 0. It will give you what? 20. Then 20 divided by 4 will give you what? 5. And use 5 to multiply 4. You have what? 20. When you subtract, everything becomes 0. So in that case, you have converted the fraction into, the fraction into decimal fraction. So the next thing we are looking at is how to convert what? Decimal fraction. How to convert decimal to what? Fraction. This one is very, very simple. It's the most easiest method, except you are what? Lazy about it. You can do it within the split of what? Seconds. The first thing we need to look at it is what? The number itself. The number is what? 31.75. 31.75. For us to convert it to what? To fraction, the first thing you need to look at, how many 0 is the denominator carrying? Since our decimal point carries what? 75, that means that our denominator will have what? 2 zeros. So in the course of that 2 0, you now write the numerator as the number without the decimal sign. So when you write the number without the decimal sign, you have over what? 100. So what is the next thing to do? The next thing to do is you what? Keeping close contact, observing the common factor between the numerator and the denominator so that you can express it in the lowest form. So now let's look at this. We know that what? 3 cannot, 2 cannot. So let's look at what? 5. 5 into 31 will give me 6 remainder 1. So 5 into 17 will give you what? 5 into 17 will give you what? 3 remainder what? 2. Put the 2 behind 5, it becomes what? It becomes what? 5. Put the 2 behind 5, it becomes 25. Then 25 divided by what? 5 will give me what? 2. 25 divided by 5, when you divide it, you have what? 5. So now our final result after reducing the what? 3,175, our final result is what? 635, and the denominator is what? 20. So looking at it, you will understand that there is a common factor between the numerator and the what? Denominator. What is that common factor? Is what? 5. So 5 into 6 will give you 1 remainder 1. Put the 1 at the front of 3, becomes 13. 5 into 13 will give you what? 2 remainder what? 3. Take the 3 to meet 5, it becomes what? 100 and what? 27. And 5 into 20 will give you what? 4. So I hope with this lesson you can study more and fetch more questions, and I will be ready to attend to you, most especially tomorrow and on Saturday. God bless you. Have a nice rest. Bye bye.